some ways, at some point in your life, everybody can be a lost rider. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of News from the Camp House, the listening post of the Texas Sportsman Association. This is Herman Brune, and this weekend's edition is also brought to us by Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club for folks who don't have a country club. And you can also find these programs now on thelostriderpodcast.com. You can go to that website, thelostriderpodcast.com. You can find these programs. You can also go on the Lost Rider YouTube channel, and all this stuff shows up now. Instead of having to get up at 6:30 on a Saturday morning, you can go listen to whatever you want to listen to on the internet anytime you want. All right, tell you what, we got a special guest with us this weekend. Gentleman with the CCA, the Coastal Conservation Association. Shane, how do you pronounce your last name?
It's Shane Bonnet.
Shane Bonnet, okay.
B-O-N-N-O-T.
All right, and would you please, what is your exact position with CCA?
I'm the Advocacy Director, so I deal a lot with fisheries policy and communications with our membership, communications with elected officials, and just work sort of behind the scenes to ensure that we have effective rules, regulations, and policies to conserve, promote, and enhance the coast of Texas and our fisheries and habitat.
Okay, all right. Do you know how many members CCA has nowadays?
It varies year to year depending on how many people sign up for our membership drive, which is our Star State Texas Anglers Rodeos, our Star Tournament. That's the tagged redfish tournament that goes on every year from Memorial Day through Labor Day. And it varies, but right now we're hovering around 60,000 members.
Okay. All right.
And just in Texas. Now we're a national organization, so we have other states that have their own members as well, but Texas holds about 55 to 60,000.
Okay, it's pretty large influence of people that people generally, when it comes to the Texas Gulf Coast, you're going to get your information from CCA and or probably Parks and Wildlife. That's a fair statement, isn't it?
When it comes to the coastal resources and specifically things that relate to recreational angling. We're a group of recreational fishermen, and so when it comes to that territory, information comes from us, and the management of the fisheries information comes from Parks and Wildlife.
Okay, all right. So this is your major source. All right. Did you spend a lot of time in Austin during the session?
I spend more time in Austin than I would like to, but not as much as some of my other conservation fellows. But yes, during session, there's a fair amount of time up in Austin and visiting with elected officials and attending hearings, and just again trying to make sure we have effective policy for really good fishing and really good coastal resources, and a lot of stuff going on these days. Seems to revolve around oyster fishery and good policy for sustainability in that fishery, which is also a very important habitat.
Absolutely. No, it's there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot to keep up with on the Texas Gulf Coast, and just pertaining to whichever bay you happen to be attached to or close to, it seems like everybody's got a particular issue that they're, latched in on.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, one of the things, now we were visiting, and, one of the things we were talking about were some of these desal plants that are all in the news now. And, we always get mixed up on this discharge deal. And that's what everybody's concerned about. What happens to the discharge? Well, we seem like once the seawater desal plant at Port Aransas, once everybody decided, well, we're going to go to deep water discharge with that, and there's a technological way of doing it. It's not just as simple as it sounds, but there's a proper way of doing that. And once that was established as being the way to managing that, everyone was able to come to agree that okay, yeah, let's go forward with this. And I would it's a correct statement to say that y'all and Parks and Wildlife and everybody along the Texas Gulf Coast agreed, okay, this is the way to manage this, correct?
Well, I don't want to speak for any other group, and of course, Parks and Wildlife as an agency, they can't really they can offer recommendations, but they can't tell another agency, which would be the TCEQ, when it comes to these permits. They can't tell them that they oppose or they're in support of a specific permit. They just sort of provide recommendations that, to be honest, really the other state agencies don't necessarily have to adhere to. But I'll speak for CCA.
Yes.
We developed a policy that states that. Oh,
you all right?
Hang on, Herman.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
I dropped the phone. We developed a policy that states that we are in opposition to any discharge going into inshore waters.
Right.
And that if you're doing surface water desal, surface water seawater, then that intake and discharge need to be offshore. And so that's our position on the surface water. And then the other desal process that's being floated out there involves groundwater.
Yes.
So pumping up brackish water out of the ground, which varies in salinity, but typically it's in the range of 5 to 15 parts per thousand. Just for your listeners, seawater is about 34, 35 parts per thousand. So the brackish water is not as salty as seawater. But again, we don't want that discharge going into the bay systems. We think that if you're pumping it up out of the ground, then you need to inject that salty discharge back into the ground and not into our bays and ecosystems. So that's our policy. I know other groups have a similar policy. Other conservation groups have a similar stance. And so as these permits are come across the wire for comment and for public engagement, we'll ensure that those permittees understand our position. Hopefully the TCEQ listens and helps these applications throughout the process and gets this discharge offshore.
All right, now I got a question. Okay, because this is where I get screwed up on this deal. All right, the brackish, when we're talking about desalinated and brackish aquifer, and if what you said now, the brackish water is 0.5 or something like that parts per thousand, and that salt, and they desalinate it, and they get the fresh water they want that they're going to use, and then they've got to do something with the discharge, and the discharge is going to be discharge generally, is that not usually like 0.55?
So just to make sure we're clear on that we're talking the same terms, I'm talking in parts per thousand.
Right.
Some of the permits may have ppm or parts per million or milligrams per liter. And so I'm just going to keep talking in parts per thousand. So again, salt water, ocean water is 34 ppt or parts per thousand. The brackish water that they're pumping up out of the ground is going to vary, but it could be 3 to 5 parts per thousand, or it could be 10 to 15. It just depends on that aquifer.
Right.
When they go through that desal reverse osmosis process, they pull out the fresh water and concentrate the salts.
Right.
And so with the brackish facility, that discharge that should be going back into the ground, but again, some people are trying to release it in the bays.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to vary. It's going to be anywhere from, could be 10 parts per thousand. It could be 25. We just don't know until these plants become operational.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So just take, for example, the one that was proposed by the South Texas Water Authority.
Right.
They're proposing a brackish water desal facility. Their original plan was to release the water and let it go into Baffin Bay, which is a very, very salty, hypersaline bay.
Right.
The water that they would be putting in is quite a bit less salty than the ambient salinity of the bay system.
Okay.
And there were concerns from that community down there about how that could affect the trout fishery, how it could affect their serpulid reefs, which are the encrusting worms that live in Baffin Bay and that have formed the rocks over centuries. So they're worried about how it could affect their habitat. And there was enough public opposition that the South Texas Water Authority pivoted and decided, hey, we think the best practice, because we don't exactly know what the impacts could be to the bay system, we're going to go ahead and have a resolution that states that we're putting this water back into the ground. And so that was a case in where there was a lot of public opposition to the original plan, and they listened to the anglers and to the people in the local community, and they're doing what I think most people feel is the right thing to do, which is inject that water back into the ground.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's take, everybody remember that. Hang on to that thought. We're going to take a quick break, and thank the folks who let us come on here every Saturday morning. We'll be right back.